You can get the whole live experience. Also, if you want to comment, because the phone is far away from us, so we can't read what you're saying, but you can come join us on YouTube. Maribella Portraits. I did type it in there.
Oh my gosh, she looks so pretty.
Yeah, look at you.
I'm so excited we're doing this. Goodness. Okay, let's let everybody hop in first. Once you guys get on this live, now there's a camera. Once you get on this live, comment and say hello and tell us where you're tuning in from. We're just going to allow everybody to hop in. This is actually my first time live streaming on YouTube. So yay for popping my cherry.
Yay!
And trying some stuff. So comment live if you're on here watching with us. And 2, let me know if you guys can hear me and the audio sounds good. Testing.
Maggie.
I am not a technical person at all, but I'm going to refrain from saying that because that's bad. That's like manifesting the wrong attitude. So I'm going to say I am fantastic at going live and this technical stuff. But
it's working right now.
Yay! So, okay.
Good.
So for those of you who end up coming in and watching the replay, comment #replay so I know you watched it. So yeah, let's get started. If you're new to my YouTube channel, hello, welcome. My name is Maria with Maribella Portraits. I'm a Houston photographer and I specialize in photographing the most amazing, wonderful goddesses. Typically, I don't photograph professional models, and lo and behold, I meet a very amazing professional model. Maggie was actually here last week helping me with a YouTube episode, and like we just hit it off and I fell in love with everything about her. So I cannot wait to interview her, and hopefully it's going to become like a regular thing, and we have so many ideas for collabs that I think she's going to become a huge staple on this channel. So hi Victoria, she's joining from the Woodlands, Texas, and audio sounds good. Yay, thank you. You're not that far, you need to come say hi. Okay, so you're in the Woodlands?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, so today's topic is interview with model Maggie Judge. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself. And we're specifically going to be discussing building your portfolio and including women of all size, all ages, all shapes, why we want to do that. But also if you are a model and you're not considered, mid-size or straight size, like how to break into the industry, how to start building your portfolio, how to choose your photographers, and vice versa. If you're a photographer and you are wanting to start building your portfolio and you want to work with professional models or you want to get clients, then I think that we're going to discuss all of this today. It's kind of a big topic.
Yeah.
But what I love is that we're going to have totally different perspectives. You're going to come at it from a professional model standpoint. She's also an actress. And me, I'm going to come from it from a professional photographer standpoint. I typically don't photograph models. And so it's going to be really interesting. We should have gotten a fashion photographer too in here next time. But before we chime in, before we get started, I'm going to have Maggie introduce herself and tell you guys where to find her on social media. Go.
Okay, hi, I'm Maggie Judge. I am based in Houston. We're also going live, so you can come onto any of my social handles, The Judge Maggie, where you can find us. And I also have a website. It's thejudgemaggie.com, and you can see my full portfolio and all the work that I've done on there.
Yeah. Okay, so how long have you been modeling?
It's been a little over 3 years now since I started, and I never thought I would be a model ever, ever, ever. I won a free boudoir photo shoot from a local boudoir photographer here in Houston, just helping to promote a friend. And when she told me that I won, I was like, I'm not a lingerie stiletto kind of gal. But if you will just let me run around naked in the field or the woods and splash around in a lake, sign me up. And she was really excited to do something completely different. And it just kind of skyrocketed from there. We had a great time. And she's like, you need to be a model. And she did the scariest thing that's ever happened in my life. What? She posted one of my pictures online. And it's a place where everyone is so evil and mean, and judgmental. So she posted that picture on a local photography group, and it just has skyrocketed since. It's been a very fun wild ride.
And now you post like every day. I love it. It's amazing. Definitely check out her work. Her photo is beautiful. I actually found out about her because I was doing a workshop here in Houston. I have a workshop about once a year. The next one's in April, just so you know.
My birthday month.
Yeah. And she's definitely going to be here for that. So I needed a model, and specifically, I wanted a plus size model. A lot of times, I feel like in the education world, I see these amazing, talented photographers, and they have great work. But let's be honest, it's definitely easier to get great photographs with someone who's a professional model, but also if they're considered, the traditional
model,
the standard of beauty that everybody is looking for on Instagram and on fashion magazines. It's a lot harder to take that and then recreate that with real customers. Now, if your goal is to be a fashion photographer, if you want to enter competitions and stuff like that, I can understand how that could be different. But if you're wanting to take the knowledge that you gain from a workshop and then apply it into your business model, then for me, it's very important that when my students come in, that they leave with a portfolio that's going to get them bookings, but also with that confidence that, hey, I can go back to my studio and I can do this with my family, my friends, and potential customers. That's what I love. And so we discuss a lot of, I also hear this all the time, especially with boudoir photography. Oh, there's no such thing as plus size posing. And to an extent, I do agree with that. But as a woman who is plus size, I say it all the time, unapologetically, I'm 5'4", 260 pounds. I still want to look feminine and sensual. And there are beautiful poses that I wish I could do, but I know that there's parts of my body that are not going to allow me to do them. And so to say that all posing is the same, no, not really. Physically, I don't have some flexibility that smaller bodies have. And then there's certain things that are kind of going to block me. Like for me to try to bring my knees to my chest.
It's actually easier for us. I'm not even trying. My boobs are already touching my knees.
But, there's the tummy there too. So it's like.
But I will also say that goes the opposite way also, because there are also certain poses that us more voluptuous, curvy women can
more
do.
Sensual,
yeah, too. That is harder for a more traditional model to pull off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ultimately the goal is to create curves, and it's not so much about size, but body shape, because it's the shapes and the flexibility of the person that's really going to make the biggest difference. So I do like to talk about that. So why do you think it's important for a photographer to have to be inclusive and have a diverse group of women representative in their portfolios?
I mean, I think that's a great question. There are so many avenues and so many women that you are excluding by just focusing and honing in on one type of woman. Especially if you want to get into fashion photography. I mean, that's the future. There are women who wear clothes. Mm-hmm. We all want to be fashionable. And so by being one of those brands that really helps to include women of all shapes and sizes, mm-hmm. You're no longer blocking out a market that's 50% of the market share out there. So I think that coming from more of a business perspective, I think that that's a really strong point.
So I have a question for you real quick. Are you distracted by all these cameras?
No, I don't know where to look.
You're looking right there.
Well, no. I like to look at someone's face when I'm talking to them. So I look at you this way, but I keep looking here because then I get to see your beautiful face.
You're so cute. So we have, we're live on Instagram on Maggie's channel. We're live here on YouTube, and we're also live here on my Instagram. Super fun. We're just, but I want you guys to know real quick before we continue is that we are going to try to do a live every Wednesday, and Maggie's going to be my guest for that. And we are just going to be in here. So let us know, send us messages, or let us know in the comments what sort of topics you guys want us to talk about. Anything to do with photography business, portfolio building, editing, shooting, and then also with modeling, posing, pretty much anything. Like, we're up for it. This is great. And also women's issues, because 100%. Everything, like, she's passionate about that, and I'm passionate about that.
Because all of that really does tie in together, especially with photography and our generation, I feel like those coming up that are younger than us, I'm 38. I'll let her tell you how old she is if she wants to.
I just turned 40.
And it's beautiful, but the way that we were raised was we were the bad women because we couldn't starve ourselves to be these teeny tiny little things, or we didn't run 60 miles a day to, be super thin. We weren't raised to embrace our beauty and all of its curvature amazingness, and so that's why this photography is so important. Because I remember the first time I saw a photo of Ashley Graham. I didn't know plus size models were even a thing. And I stared at that picture in the mirror. I held it and I looked at her, and then I looked at me in the mirror, and I was like, I have goosebumps. Look, I literally have goosebumps. I was like, that's me. We have the same body, and look at her rocking it. She's on the cover of magazines, and she's gorgeous. I'm gorgeous too. I don't have to feel bad about that.
And I have to jump in on that because you said exactly what our potential customers as photographer, we want them to say. When people are scrolling through our social media, our websites, you're wanting to get higher. That's why you're putting your beautiful work out there. And if you think it's just about having perfectly lit images and perfectly posed and styled women who have amazing bodies, like if you think that that's going to get you customers, it may get you, or it may not, it may just continue to draw that clientele that looks just like them, but more than likely those are also going to be models. But like what you want is those potential clients to be like, oh my gosh, that's me, exactly what you just said. This photographer knows exactly how to photograph women that look like me. And this is like why I strive so hard. I always ask my clients, can I please post your photos? And if they give me permission, then I want to show them off. And you can go to my Instagram, you can go to my website. You're going to see real clients, of all ages.
And that's actually a really great point, because I remember when I first saw my photos, it took me out, and I know that we've talked about this before, that seeing those photos, and they weren't, heavily edited, and there were actually even photos that weren't edited, but I got to see myself through the eyes for the first time of someone else instead of through the evilness of the thoughts in my brain, because we're so mean to ourselves. I know I am, at least, every day it's these negative thoughts. So it was wonderful to see the positive thoughts. And as a photographer, that's what you're giving women. You're letting them see the beauty of who they are on the outside, not just through the evilness of that lens in their brain.
I agree. And I also want to bring up this point, because I know one of the reasons that a lot of photographers only want to, showcase the people, the clients or models that they think are the most beautiful, that are going to be scroll stopping. Because I've been there. I've taken some beautiful work that I was like, I am so proud of this portrait. This woman looks amazing, and have gotten no likes, no comments. And it was for something simple like, I know she has a scar that I didn't remove, but I know that that's her and that's authentically her, and I would never remove that. And it hurt my heart. It really did. And it's also, I post posing tips on my TikTok, and I recently did, and I get comments like, just exercise and eat healthier, and then you don't have to fool people with your stupid posing tips. Like, I've literally had comments like that. But we have to understand what is our end goal, and realize that those trolls, those people that are not going to like what we do, they're always going to be there. You're going to have photographers telling you that you're never going to, you're never going to stand out. You're never going to be the best. No one's going to want to work with you because you don't have the best portfolio. You're not consistently showing this beautiful aesthetic on Instagram. But we're in a day and age that is so beautiful now that people want the authenticity, and your people, your real people, the ones that are going to want to spend money on you, want to work with you, those people are going to find you, and they are going to be so proud to support you.
Like, I agree. And look at the because we're millennials, and so Gen Z is the next one up behind us. But look at that generation. I mean, these women are way more powerful than I ever thought we could be. And watching them, some things, it's actually like, I'm very proud, and it's, they can walk around now and they don't shave. I could never imagine, like, I'm wearing a skirt right now. I can never imagine leaving the house without shaving. It's just like, it's a thing that's just burned into your brain. You have to do it.
It's so different now.
They embrace, it's a generation that is embracing all of these things that we thought were negative, bad, gross
their humanity. They're embracing
they're embracing. They find them sexy. They're attracted to them. And, that all sorts of women are included in that.
And that's why it is important that we have that representation and inclusivity. So I'm speaking to you, woman, who may not think, I'm not perfect. I have this, I have that. I'm short. I'm whatever. I'm too old. Whatever it is, there's another woman who looks just like you who's not ready to step into her body and step into the moment and be brave. So if you can't do it for you, do it for them. Do it for them, because there's so many times that I'm so blessed to get so close to my clients, these women, and they share so much of themselves, their stories, and you can't help but be moved. And I just think I have to share this story. I have to share what this is about, because there are women out there who are currently struggling through this. They're in the trenches, and hearing you looking so beautiful and strong and powerful now, like all of the things that we went through, the scars, the pain, like all of that shows up in our bodies and in our faces. Like, let it be for something.
Yeah. And I completely agree. One of the greatest things that have come from modeling has been the women that I run into, or the women that message me and share their stories with me. A lot of women have started to do boudoir, or they want to get into modeling and they're acting, or even if their dream was just leave their abusive relationship and start their own life, to where it's one of those things where it's not just a photo. It can change someone's life. It changed my life. Working with one photographer changed my entire life. She launched my career.
Yeah.
Without that moment, I wouldn't have had this. She gave me the confidence to be a better role model for my 4 daughters, so it's not just a photo to put on Instagram for likes. You're changing someone's life. You're changing their stars.
And that's a superpower.
Yeah,
I love that. It's a superpower. As photographers, we're heroes. We have a superpower. Did you know that? There's 2 reasons too. Everything that you just said, having someone see themselves through your eyes, wow. But then also, just the fact is, we're the historians of our time. In this digital age, we already know Instagram and Facebook are not forever, as much as they like us. And they remember the Instagram, Facebook apocalypse.
And I was like, I have no way to contact anybody. All of the photos that I've ever taken are on there.
So yeah, I mean, there's a quote that I've heard so many times, and it's, this is the most photographed generation of our time, and it's going to be the generation that has 0 photos in like 20 years. Because, or 100 years, definitely, for sure.
Because they're all online.
Because they're all online and on our phones. And even if you back them up to a cloud, like, people are not printing. They're not printing their work. And so for those of us that are blessed to print our work and create artwork for people that's tangible, that's going to be passed from generation to generation, like, look at all those photographs that we have from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what's left. That's the proof that you existed. So we always talk about, like, what's our legacy? And, I've gone into people's homes, and they're like in $1 million homes and $500,000 homes, and they have the most expensive, beautiful things, and they don't have a single photograph of themselves or their family. And I'm just like, this shows you what you value. You value your things, your house, which is all great. But even though real estate is great, that's a great investment. But what else is your legacy? I think it's photographs and real estate. That's the best. And good health.
I love it. But you're so right. I remember during Harvey, when we had the big hurricane and there was all the flooding, when everybody was rushing to save their things, they weren't trying to dry out their couch, right? They were trying to salvage those photos and old notes and things. And, my father passed away last year, and we were cleaning out his house, and I found all these photos that I used to send him before, of like the kids before Facebook. And then Facebook came, and I could just pop them up there and tag him and be like, now you saw. And I was like, wait, so I have no pictures of any of that. And it kind of sparked that idea of like, I need to start printing pictures. We don't have photo albums anymore.
Yeah. So if you're a photographer and you're listening to this and you're not offering printed products right now, definitely start considering how you can be of better service to your clients. We a lot of times get into the mindset that we have to sell things.
Yeah.
And our first job is to serve people and serve them in ways that's going to help them. And I think, you're doing an injustice to your clients, but not completely fulfilling
Mm-hmm.
on that job.
I think
My
that's
heart
really
just,
interesting.
yeah, that's how I see it. I've spoken to other photographers that don't have artwork in their home, and I'm like, how can you be a photographer and not have photos?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a message to you. You know who you are. Just kidding. But I'm saying, like, you know, it's really hard to, I'm not in sales. I tell people that all of the time. I'm not a salesperson. That's not my job. My job is, you know, to capture beauty, to capture you, whatever story you want to tell. But then I want to make it timeless. I want to make it something that you get to look at when you're 80 years old and you get to show to your grandkids or great grandkids and be like, this was me. I want my artwork to be something that your family looks forward to recreating. Like, have you ever had someone come in with their grandmother's wedding dress, their grandmother's, you know, photos and be like, I want this picture? Like, that's the most amazing,
absolutely
beautiful thing.
And so, and for those up here as well, I don't know if you know or who knows or who doesn't know, this is actually one of her photos printed on canvas.
Yes.
I
mean, it's blurry right now.
I'm like, it's clear up here.
It's clear up there, yeah.
But like, could you imagine taking a photograph of yourself, you and your loved one, your kids, your dog, something, and having this magical, I mean, I remember the first time I saw it, I already have the entire photo shoot planned out that I want to do, like with my 4 children, to set this up. I mean, it's true. And we all remember going into our grandparents' homes and seeing those photos from their wedding day. They didn't just have random pictures that they took every single time. It was an event to go get your photo taken. And it was something magical that you hung up and shared, you know, for the whole rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I love how you think about it that way and you want to get back to that.
So if you guys have any questions while we're here on YouTube, even if you're watching this on the replay, let us know in the comments or just, you know, let us know your thoughts. What do you think of everything we've been saying? I do see that on Instagram. We had a couple of comments, and I think you're kind of far away, so I can't see the comments on that one.
I'm like, we're trying to see that.
Go to the YouTube and comment over there. But yeah, let us know. Victoria, let us know about you. What kind of photography do you do? Who do you photograph? How do you feel about printed artwork as well? So I'm going to ask you. Monica says, agree, girl, you're doing amazing, and I love your work and motivation. Let's see. That I heard. So okay.
And it's Maribella Portraits.
Yes.
On YouTube. So you can come and join us on YouTube too.
Yeah. Super fun. And so we're going to do lives on YouTube every Wednesday. So hit those notifications and subscribe to my channel. Maggie is going to be a very recurring appearance. Is going to make a recurring appearance on the channel. She's going to hold me accountable to content creation. So we dedicate it every Wednesday until the end of time.
Forever. She thinks she's getting rid of me.
I love it. Yeah, I love that you're here. I love women who are empowering other women and who are also beautiful. But you're not only beautiful and intelligent, but you want everybody to grow with you. And that's the exact mentality that we have around here at Goddess.
And that's also part of our generation, how we grew up. We were pitted against each other. Women are competition. Our sole purpose was to have a boy like us and do that at any cost, backstabbing our friends and, you know, taking advantage of situations. And that's not who I am. I don't see it that way. We're sisters. You know, just because you are better at something than me doesn't make me a terrible person, doesn't make me unlovable. We all deserve to be loved. It doesn't matter what we look like or how we feel about somebody else or another situation. We still all deserve to be loved. And that's what I want to put into the world.
And something that I think those of us who maybe aren't in front of the cameras or putting our lives out there don't know is that we are still influencers into our own little small circle, and the energy and the things that you do are going to affect others. So whether that's, you know, just those little micro decisions that we make, like they really can have such a big impact. Like you saying yes.
I love that.
And come here, like this just has like kind of derailed my path, and in a good way.
But I love it. And so I mean, I understand the social media followers. With my social medias combined between Facebook and Instagram, I'm over 1 million followers. And I love every single one of you. And if you are on my Instagram or my Facebook, I get on there and I really try to say thank you to every single comment. That's me. I don't pay anybody to do that. That is all me, because I love that. If you're taking the time to come see what I'm doing, I'm going to thank you for your time. But I don't see myself as an influencer. I don't sell anything. I've never had a promo code. And that is the part of social media that I personally hate. I despise it. I think it is gross to just sell something to like make money. It's just not in my wheelhouse. If you do it, that's so awesome. But like, it's not my thing. But whenever I meet like smaller companies, that's what I always say. I'm like, hey, I am an influencer to help build you up. Yeah. I don't want a promo code. I don't want anything like that. I believe in your product. I want to sell it, and I want to watch the little guy become something great, because I know that you're going to put greatness back into the world. You're not going to become Sam Walton and destroy the universe with Walmart. You know, like we need that diversity. I think the world is becoming too much of a monopoly, and I love that diversity, and I love that we can help that. But that's how we can all influence people every day, by going to like a family-owned business and purchasing from there instead of
supporting.
Yeah, exactly. Or working with a local photographer, things like that, instead of going to Sears.
Okay, really quick. I do mainly portrait photography. I agree that printed products are important to keep for your future legacy. I've done too many digital products in the past. Yes, I have clients that have come to me here more recently, and that they originally hired me like 8 years ago when I first started, and I've asked them, what did you do with those photos that we took so many years ago? They're like, oh, I don't have them. So, do you know where they're at? What, did you send them to me? Yes, I sent them to you. But they don't even, it's because it's digital, it's so disposable, even though those are your like memories, but they don't even have the originals, and they don't know what happened to them.
So I'm curious, how do you, as a photographer, and any other photographers that are listening, how do you feel about doing like an unveiling? I know, like, when I got my photos, I went to her studio and we went through the photos together. She picked like her top 50 favorites. And then from those, we went through and picked the ones that, were included in my package, and I can purchase others or anything.
That's what we do. I never sent in galleries, like digital galleries, for people to choose their photos. I feel like it's very, the lights went out. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I think we're good. I think that us as a professional, they come to us for our quality of work, and they trust us, and they trust that we have the knowledge that they don't have in choosing the best artwork. Of course, everyone's always going to have an opinion, but you as the artist, like, understand what's going to look better. Like, just think about it. When you're handing someone just the digitals, it's just like going to McDonald's, picking up your food, and then you go find some place to eat all that stuff. Whereas someone that's really going to take care of you is going to provide you that customer service. Hey, an 8x10 crop is going to be different than a 16x24. And it's going to look totally different. So if you hand someone a digital and they actually want to print their photos, like, you don't know how many times people would be like, oh, just to let you know, there was something wrong with the photo. It kept getting cropped. They don't understand about ratios and things like that. So like, that's what you do in terms of customer service, is that I take all of that hassle out of it for you. And you tell me, what size do you need? I'm going to edit and shoot for your final products, because if it's going to be an 8x8 square album, that's totally different than a huge, 30x40 canvas. It's going to be a completely different crop and ratio. And you can tell that's going to be different, because if I was to cut this into a square and I just had a digital, I'm going to lose her arm, because I don't know how to fix this. I'm a customer. And so I'm losing all of this beautiful, I might lose the butterfly, the flowers, like the hair. Like, how can I get what I need when I want the entire picture? Whereas you're going to a photographer that's going to take care of you and hold your hand and just, they're going to take this picture and expand it and paint more leaves in there if I have to, and trim things in order to fit it.
And even if that's
into the size you need.
that's your product. So if they're going to share it with people, You want that to represent the best form of your
Exactly.
product. It's funny on the other end, because I have all these photos and I love them. And so part of my quarantine project last year, when we're all stuck in the house forever, was to actually print more photos of the kids. But when I started doing that, I was going through pictures and I'm like, I have all these amazing photos of me. Is it like super egotistical to like hang these pictures up? And I'm like, I'm not going to have like a full nude or something like hanging in my living room. But it made me think of that episode of Sex and the City, when, I don't know if you're Sex and the City fans, but it's like my favorite show, where Samantha goes and gets a picture. She gets photos done and she is standing upright. Her foot is up like on a stool. Everything's like out there in the open. She takes it and she has it hanging up in her house.
That's so awesome.
I love that. And so I actually printed some photos. It started out where they were just in my bedroom. So most people don't, like my friends' kids don't come over and they're in my bedroom, and they're still pretty PG-13 photos, to where now I have some hanging up like on my bookshelf or like, mixed in with things. And I have some in the bathroom, still PG-13. And I was really nervous to do that. But everyone that comes over is like, I love that you have your photos hanging up. Like, you're not ashamed, you're putting them up there. So I've heard this from some friends who've done boudoir photography, like I've done a session, and they're like, what do I do with the photos now? Like, do I just give them to my husband? What do I do? And I'm like, hang them up, put them up in your house. That's amazing. Share them. So I'm interested if anyone else is what they've done with their photos.
I want to know what does that feel like? Does that like how has being photographed in the last 3 years helped your self-esteem and your confidence? And then printing that artwork, hanging up in your home, like what does that do?
Yeah, I think it's
because I have my opinions on it, so I would love to hear your opinion.
I'll always be honest, because it had this sort of backfire for a little bit, because I'm a big fan of keeping myself in check. I'm an Aries, and so sometimes things can get caught. You're my grandma's birthday. That's right. We're exactly 1 week apart, the 9th and the 16th. So one time a million years ago, someone told me that I was a little, not self-centered, what they say? I don't know, something
self-absorbed.
No, like I'm
narcissistic.
No, I'm not narcissistic. I'm farthest from that. I think he said like self-centered or something.
Yeah.
It was like my friend's now ex-husband. He's not, whatever.
Yeah.
His opinion doesn't count. But it's stuck in my head for the last 20 years. To where I always think about that. And so when I started modeling and I was getting all of this really amazing praise, I was so hard on myself to make sure that didn't go to my head and that it became like this other person.
That's definitely a product of our generation.
We feel bad of succeeding.
Yes. I always thought it was cultural, but then like more and more that I talked to other women, because I thought, it's because I'm Mexican. Like that's how my moms would act. It would be very self-depreciating.
Yeah.
You need to be humble, but humble in itself, like being proud of being humble and having humility, can also be kind of conceited. Like, I'm so humble. Like I've actually heard people say that, oh girl, I'm so humble, like.
No, you're not humble.
You're like literally bragging about being humble.
That's something that people will tell you, and you're like, thank you.
But there was like guilt and shame in being proud of your accomplishments and saying, I like how I look. I mean, just think about it. Like if a man tells you look beautiful and you're like, I know, or you get, whatever, people are like, oh no, you're not that pretty. You're so conceited. Why can't you just?
And how, like, taking a compliment, anybody said, and I'm just like, okay, so anyway, like, let's go over here, and so that's something that
that was awkward. That was hard to be able to accept compliments for me. I had to push through so much. Even, I'm gonna tell you how bad it was that when I had my first baby, I could not talk about my newborn. I had to wait for people to ask me about her, and then I would check myself to make sure I wasn't being braggadocious and that I wasn't talking about her for too long.
Those are the shirts we're getting.
That's the self-awareness.
That's the name of this whole thing. It's called braggadocious. We're gonna get shirts. I love that. I actually said it the other day to someone. We were out on a date. It was like our 5th date. Super exciting. And we were talking, and I was talking. And at one point I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I will pull back. Like I know I'm talking a lot. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, we've been on a magical journey. He's like, we've gone everywhere, all over the place. He's like, and he can keep up with the conversation, which is a nice thing. So I'm tired of like feeling bad about myself, feeling bad about like my successes. That doesn't make me a conceited person. And also a little bit that came into factor was that as a plus size woman, a curvy woman, a big woman, whatever label you're going to put on it, depending on how old you are, you have a different name. I got called a big woman yesterday. And I was like, he's an older guy. But I was like, okay, I don't think we say that anymore.
I love when they say, I have ADHD really bad, so I can talking. No, because you're going to forget your story.
Okay. No, I won't bring it back. I always bring it back.
But it makes me remember, okay, so what, because people don't ever believe this stuff happens, but it really does. I was in New York once. I was, teaching a class, and nobody, I didn't know anybody. Nobody wanted to hang out that night. I actually got stranded, but we'll talk about that the other day. So I went to a bar, had a couple of drinks. This older man, who wasn't like, whatever. I'm sitting there being friendly with everybody, talking to everybody because it's my personality. He literally was like, you have such a great personality. You should lose weight.
I didn't ask your opinion.
I was like, excuse me?
I'm over here getting my drink on.
They're trying to do you a favor. And I must tell you right now, you just have such a great personality. Your life would be so much better if you were like not fat. Like, what? And then I was so upset, but I was like, I asked him questions and he was just like, I just want you to be healthy. I was like, if I walk outside and get ran over by a car, you won't even remember my name. So, yeah. Anyway.
That's stuff. I love unsolicited advice. But so we become a fetish.
Just like hanging out.
We become a fetish.
Yeah.
And I hate that. So a lot of it too was if I accepted this greatness that was happening in my life and modeling and acting, then it was only because I was a fetish. I wasn't this beautiful girl that could walk into a room and nobody is thinking what size I am, how much I weigh, or what's happening. And so I think I had always just been waiting for that shoe to drop and waiting for someone to come to me and be like, stop. Or honestly, it was more so, who the hell does this girl think she is? Stop pretending. Stop playing model. You're not really a model. You're not doing anything. And I had my first international magazine cover last year, by the way. So, but no one had ever said anything to me. All the feedback I've ever gotten has been extremely positive from people on front of the camera, behind the camera, of all different shapes, colors, and sizes. So it was really just me holding myself back because of that fear. So now I'm starting to like come back alive and be I'm allowed to walk into a room and be like, hi, I am beautiful. I am amazing, but I'm not rubbing it in anyone's face. I'm allowed to feel
You're allowed to exist.
Yeah.
You're allowed to exist and feel good. And bringing it back to photography, since that's the topic at hand, is that there's so much power in what we do as photographers and as women who allow ourselves to give ourselves permission to exist in photographs. There's power.
Yeah. There's a lot of power.
A lot.
I mean, look at how one picture, can go viral and go crazy and just change everyone's whole entire life
and perspective. Like we're like living in this amazing, very fast-paced world right now.
Yeah.
So
also before we jump on, but everyone's always focused on these big events, tying back into what you said about being like a micro influencer, that it's not just about this big crazy viral video. It's also like quality over quantity. And so who's seeing those photos? Who's doing it? What's your market? As a model, as a photographer, understanding and acknowledging your market and then working for that. That's an important thing too, which is something that I see. And photographers can help this also, I think, with models, is knowing what's your shtick.
What's your shtick?
Like what kind of model are you? What do you want to be? And focusing on photographers that are going to help bring that alive.
So there's the, we're businesses at the end of the day, whether you are a model or a photographer, we are businesses. And so when I started my business, I remember I would hear things like, what's your mission, vision, statement?
Yeah.
And I never really understood what that meant. You make up some quirky, silly little thing. But I changed my mission to service. What am I here to serve? How am I going to serve you? And what is my goal? What is my purpose? So like my mission changed into my purpose.
Yeah.
And my goal, my purpose has been to show women that they are worthy.
Yeah.
They're worthy. And so that's how I act now. I act on my purpose every day with every decision that I make, with the content I create, with the people in my life and the things that we share. And so you want to keep that in mind with everything that you do, including when building a portfolio. Who are the people that you want to serve?
Absolutely.
If it's mothers whose children are growing up really quick, you want to capture that before those kids turn to teenagers who never want to be photographed again. Like write it down and really hone in on that, because that's going to help you with creating your path.
Absolutely. And that's, one thing that's really great for models too, is putting together your media kit. I honestly had never had a media kit because I had my website. So I would just be like, go to my website. And then I put together a media kit for the first time a couple months ago. And that's when it really brought it to home, everything that I had ever done. And I was like, wow, I actually have accomplished quite a bit, in these 3 years. But just like you said, it puts your mission together so that and I have multiple media kits because not all of my work is what one client might want to see. And so that's really important. And when you have that media kit, that's really nice to show to a photographer, because it'll pull together all your styles and it'll give them a really great idea of who you are. So when you're collaborating, building, working, whatever, if that photographer doesn't match with what your mission is and match your media kit per se, then you know that you kind of want to go a different way.
Yeah, and you probably don't want. So that's actually bringing me back so we can wrap up this conversation. I want to end this with 5 things. So I want you to give me 5 tips for choosing a photographer when you're starting your portfolio as a model. Specifically, we do want to focus on plus size. I know you don't necessarily like the word because you're like, they don't call straight size, women like
they don't.
Anything. So I get that.
Model, yes, a traditional model doesn't call herself that. Why do I have to call myself? I hate labels. I'm a model.
Yeah. But for a lot of other women who do identify as that, or like what we consider, they're not fitting the stereotypical, size 2, which is what's on the fashion runways, whatever, in the hangers. So give us 5 tips on choosing your photographer and also starting your portfolio from someone that's never been photographed. How could they go about even submitting for those opportunities? And then I'm going to close with my 5 tips for, building up your portfolio.
So she planned this live. I was just throwing these questions. So these are literally, I haven't even thought about this. So the first one that comes to mind is, and this is what I do, is because we live in the world of editing and photoshopping. And so my brand is very natural, very unphotoshopped. And so for me, it's really important that photographer, because I've worked with photographers where it looks natural, but I didn't know what that model looked like. And then I get my photos back and I was like, oh, that was not natural. And that was all super photoshopped. And so what I'll do is I'll go to a photographer's Instagram. Instagram is the best for this because if it's a good photographer and they tag their model. And so you'll go in there and I'll look at a photo that I really love. And then I'll go look at that model's page and say, okay, does she actually look like that photo? Because that will help me, because we're all posting selfies and things like that too. So that gives me a really good idea of how photoshoppy that, that photographer is. And if I like that style of, photoshopping, because if you want to add color into backgrounds and stuff like that, that's okay. I just don't like my face to change. And they try to like enlarge my eyes. I do have like small eyes, but I think it's kind of my thing. And so then I'm like this raccoon and it's not my thing. There's some really great photos where I'm like, what did you just do? You turned me into a Bratz doll. Like, that's not my style. Another thing too is to scare away, especially when you're first starting, it's really hard. You just want to build a portfolio, which I understand. And there's lots of photographers who are always willing to do like TFP, the trade for photos. And so one of the things that I kind of do that scares people away is like, I do have a friend that will come with me at the beginning. He would come to shoots just to kind of make sure everything was okay. But there were many photographers where I would just the mentioning that somebody would be accompanying me, not a boyfriend, not like a husband, but somebody that is there just to make sure that like, while I'm on set, I'm being safe, so I can focus. And a lot of people won't even come back with you. So I just always kind of throw that one out there. and see how they react, and then, go from there. The third one I would say is check references, ask for references. Some photographers will hand you references. And that's kind of, that can be helpful. Sometimes they can just send you someone that is a friend, so you're not really sure there. The fourth one I would say, kind of take everything with a grain of salt. Lots of people really like drama. And it's kind of hard to know who to believe, especially in this world. So I would say, trust your instincts. If you think something is wrong, it is wrong. Do not do it. Do not go on set. No photographer, no real professional photographer will ever ask you to meet you in a hotel room. No photographer will ever ask you to do some of the really scary, weird things that I've heard. And you have to keep yourself safe. So trust your instincts. Even if you are on set and something just feels off, leave. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to worry about burning your career, because chances are someone else has already been there in that situation with you. And it's not going to take one person to make or break. And don't date photographers.
Yeah, don't date photographers.
I think that's a big one. If
photographers, don't use your models for your dating pool.
Yeah, I have actually, and this is actually, I'm going to throw this to photographers too, where I've gone on. He was really great at this too. We found this really great spot where we were going to go shoot. It was lifestyle on the streets kind of thing when I first started. And then he's like, "Oh, let's go here." And you're sitting outside and you're drinking wine or something. So he's like, "I'm going to go get some," and he comes back with a bottle of wine, and he's sitting down, and he worked it. I'm telling you, to where at the end I was like, "Wait, we're not on a date, sir. This was work." So I just think about it that way. I don't date people I work with. I don't. So this is my job also. So I like to keep it very professional. We can be friends, we can hang out, but when I'm on set, when I'm with somebody, that professional guard is up on purpose, because you never know who you can trust. You never know what's going to happen. And it takes a while for that. So you have to protect yourself.
I do want to say that both of us have so much energy. 46 minutes went
Has it been 46 minutes? Oh my gosh.
And then I'm like, I hope you guys can follow us, because obviously we both have ADHD. So I don't know what you guys are going to think about this when you watch this on the replay, but let us know.
I think they're going to love it.
Yeah.
Because their energy is very, what is the word I'm looking for?
Contagious.
Yes.
I want to know what you guys think of these really chill, just chats, because I would love to do that more.
Because my people are used to it. So up here we're live on my Instagram. So everyone over here, they already know my wacky.
They're like, yes, it's all good.
Okay, what was the second?
Okay, so now my turn. So I'm going to say, if you're starting a portfolio, you're a beginner, you don't have a portfolio yet, the most important thing that you need to do is get practice and photograph people. And instead of trying to find the most beautiful, most professional, the best models out there, go and start photographing friends, family, pretty much anyone that will say yes, because that's how you're going to learn to be a really good photographer. If you're photographing a variety of people, you're getting different challenges, you're learning how to work your angles, you're learning about lens choices and lighting and how you can incorporate shadows to contour the body. All of those things are super important, but you're not going to get that just from watching a video. I have lots of classes online. If you guys are interested, it's findingmagicEDU.com. I'll link it here at the bottom of the video. There's lots of classes on there about posing and everything, but I can only teach up to a certain point through demos and speaking about it. It's just like riding a bicycle. I can sit there and describe to you how to ride a bicycle and tell you all the technical aspects of it, but until you physically hop on that bike and start riding it,
and you'll fall, you're not going to get,
yes,
but then you learn. So it's okay, because then when you get back to behind that camera and you see those photos, you're like,
it's a learning lesson.
I could have done this, I could have done that. That's how you hone your skills.
Every single time that you pick up your camera and practice is an investment into your profession. And it's time well spent. That's how you can get good really fast, real quickly. But then also, because you're photographing so many different people, you're posting and sharing your work. That's how you're going to promote yourself. And then that's how you get more reach. For instance, if you pick one person who's just beautiful and perfect and she knows exactly what to do every single time, that's not really a challenge for you. And it's going to be easy to photograph her. and you'll get lots of likes and everything, but then no new people are going to find you.
And your viewers will get bored.
They're going to get bored. But then again, you're not really growing because she's just standing there looking beautiful and she knows what to do, and you never have to give her any direction. Well, that's fun and great. It's not going to make you a better photographer necessarily. So that's my number one tip. Number two, make sure everything is in writing, all your communication. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a written contract if you're not comfortable with doing that. Anything that's a written agreement is considered like a contract. So if you create an email and talk about everything that you and her have agreed to, including how many photos they're getting, what is the deadline for you to deliver the photos, what's going to happen to the photos, and then what is the exchange? So you're giving them 1 and 2 photos? Are you giving them 3? Are you choosing the photos? Are you editing the photos? What are they permitted to do? And then the timeline. Because if you're doing a trade for print, you're promising them photos in exchange for their time. That's the whole reason that they're there. So deliver on that promise. And make sure if you need 30 days to get it done, then give yourself a month. But most people, knowing that up front, will tell you yes or no, I can work with you. But the worst thing that you can do is not deliver on your promises. This is practice, especially when you're first portfolio building. It is practice for when you're dealing with clients, and you need to consider your models as clients in that aspect. Even if they are your best friend, even if it's your sister, and you think you're never going to have a problem with it, you don't know how many times the biggest and worst issues happen between friends and family. Because you're doing business together. It is a business. And you're like, oh, this is my sister. She's this, she's that. They're the first person to take the most advantage of you and beat you up. So they'll drive 3 hours to see me to this specific location, and I want this, and this, So be very specific and clear on everything that's going to happen. And because you have that in writing, people like that are not going to be able to push you around. But at the same time, it also holds you accountable for having good business practices and being a good person and delivering on those promises. Because if you tell someone I'm going to do this and this, and then you burn that, and on top of that is that trust, knowing, like, and trusting, because I had to talk about that, is, when you're talking about not dating models and all of this stuff, you will have that reputation, and sooner or later it's going to get around. And you don't want to do that, because everyone speaks. When I first started, I won't mention this photographer's name, but they were on the news. This person was my friend, and they ended up being very upset with me. Whatever, we cut off the friendship. This was another photographer, but the way that he was working in order to get back at me was basically copying everything I was doing, going after my models, and it was just such a bad business practice that his reputation grew and grew, and it got really bad, to the point that he ended up getting on the news for basically taking people's money and not showing up at weddings and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's what happens. So I really, want you to go back to knowing from the get-go what is your purpose, and then every decision that you make needs to act on that purpose. If this decision or this thing that I want to do, is that going to serve my purpose, and is it going to push me forward in my goals?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's important.
That's a huge one.
Yeah. And I'm telling you guys this from experience, because it's really easy. One thing that I have on my contract is about my editing, because if I have someone that looks a certain way and then you come in and you're expecting the same exact image, it's not going to happen, because you're not the same person. I just needed to be consistent within my editing style. So that I've even written that into my contract.
Set those expectations.
Set those expectations up front. So that's 2. 3, on portfolio building. I would say if you are not super, super busy with a lot of clients, I would say when you do the shoot, immediately after the shoot, write out and create your workflow. Especially at the beginning, it's, again, going to help you to build these habits and skills so that eventually when you start building your business, you know how everything's going to work. You're going to have a system of operation that you can do in your sleep. It's written out. So if anything ever happens to you, you can hand that off to someone else for them to fulfill on your business. One of my clients just showed up. So we're almost done. Yeah, take a seat. One of my clients just stood up, say hi, Noreen. Okay, so yes. So for me, what that meant was going to the photo shoot immediately that day, pulling out my SD card, creating a backup, cooling the images down to select the ones that we want to use, and then creating a backup of that. And that's all I do the first day, just to make sure that I still have a copy of those images on my SD card and then on my backup so that there's no issues. You don't know how many times I've heard of photographers that accidentally formatted an SD card, or they waited so long to look at the images. It's been a month and now they're like not excited about editing these photos, and then they can't find the SD card, stuff like that. So create a workflow for you where you're like, immediately that day, I'm going to do something with these photos. And then if you can, try to start editing them as soon as you can, because afterwards the excitement's going to wear off.
Well, and this is why these steps are so important, because we were actually talking about this. I can't tell you how many TFP photos that I'm sitting on still waiting 3 years later, or issues like that where that happen, where you, especially as a model, because it's time and money, hair, makeup, clothes. If it's a TFP, yes, I know you're also putting in time as well, but you come in and then the photographer is like, which has happened, something broke or something happened, and then you don't have those photos. And so as you, as a model or growing, or a woman who's done a photo shoot or whatnot, people will ask you. So I get women asking me all the time, hey, have you worked with so-and-so photographer? And it's not about bad mouthing anybody, but it's about being honest about what really happened. So if you're like, yeah, I did work with him, it was a TFP shoot, I never got any of the photos, and that was 3 years ago. Even if I've asked a couple times,
that
reputation. Yeah.
Okay, so number 4, and again, this is for portfolio building if you're starting out, but it actually works on any part of the business that you're at. Whether you're a starting photographer or a seasoned photographer, you should have this implemented within your business. And just lost my train of thought.
ADD, the ADD's kicking in. She'll move on to number 5, and then and halfway through number 5, number 4 will pop back in. It happens all the time.
Oh my God, that was terrible. This is what you're supposed to write down. So tip number 5, write everything down that you want to say before you go live on YouTube. Yeah.
And I jumped in and I threw
you
you
did.
off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have been like, that's why I try to pin yourself and you remember or something.
I can't get it back. I can't get it
back. Live together. We're trying to figure it out.
But I can't get it back.
2 ADD Aries ENFPs sitting here in these chairs. So
okay. Yeah. So we talked about backing up your files, creating your workflow, delivering on images, preparation, client preparation. So again, practicing, writing stuff down. I'm all about systems. So prepare people before their photo shoot. They should already kind of have an expectation of what's going to happen. And so, creating style guides, inspiration pieces. If you don't have a portfolio yet, you want to look into this, write it down. It's called a mood board. Google it so you can kind of figure out what it is. But I think I do have a YouTube episode on here about mood boards. But that'll kind of help you visualize what the photo shoot is going to look like so that you can translate that to your clients or your models, because it is an investment in time. It is money. Wardrobe, makeup, all of that stuff costs money. So yeah, preparation, super important. And I think 5, to wrap up, take lots and lots of notes, find yourself a mentor. There's actually lots of free content out there on YouTube. I have a professional photographers Facebook group. It's Finding Magic. I'll also link that down below. So yeah, I think we're good. Mentors are super important. Honestly, I had that question asked today about somebody that asked me about going to college for photography. And I was like, no, if you're going to invest that much money, I would say to actually find a really good mentor that's going to help you in terms of marketing and sales, I think is number 1. And then everything else you can expand on. So yep, we're going to wrap it up with that. Yeah. You guys, thank you so much for those of you that hung out with us the entire live. I appreciate you being here. Let me know if you enjoyed. Comment your thoughts. Hey, feedback is great. This was our first one. We know. I already know it wasn't like the best. But hopefully we'll be here next week, and we would love to see you then.
Please do more.
Yay!
She stayed the whole time.
You
with
did,
us.
Victoria. Thank you. Now you're gonna have to go have drinks with us because you're in the Woodlands.
We're right here. I'll tell you where we're gonna be tonight. You can come meet us.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. Don't forget to let us know in the comments. What do you guys want to hear us talk about? Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
We gotta go.
She's video it. Bye, guys. Don't forget to follow Maribella Portrait.